Hello and welcome. My name is Lia Block and today we are here at the Petersen Museum, and this is basically my first time I get to see this amazing exhibit, People's Champ. And fortunately I have got to see all of these cars in action over the years, which is really special to see them all in one place, and it's very rare. So a lot of work went into it, and it's super cool to see. So we step over here. This is probably one of the craziest cars you will see in here. Some people don't like it because it's electric, but when you see what it can do, it's quite crazy. And especially when I had the honor of getting behind the wheel of it last year, it was just an amazing experience. It truly is one of a kind car, and Audi did so well with it. So, you know, I've seen everything from behind the scenes. I was on set for most of these Gymkhana films as a young child, and this one was one of the latest, so I was a bit older and I got to experience a bit more. So to be able to be behind the wheel of such an iconic car and such an iconic video, it's a different feeling, you know, than just driving a regular car when there's actually meaning behind it. And for me, that felt really cool, a bit emotional, but yeah, it was an awesome experience. So if we come over here, this is the Cossie 2.0, RIP Cossie 1. That one burned down. But this is the revised, perfectionized version of the Cossie. I was fortunate enough to drive this in an LSPR rally, the American Championship 2 years ago. So the deal was with me and my dad, if I won the rear-wheel drive championship, I could drive one of his cars, an all-wheel drive car in a rally. So I got to do that, and it was I'm gonna say it's definitely one of the most unique rally cars you can drive, and has a lot of history behind it. It was one of my dad's very favorite projects, taking, you know, an old rally car, but that was so iconic, and making it run again and making it able to compete with the modern rally cars today. First car I ever got to drive, and probably the most iconic of the car world. Even if you don't know its name, you'll probably have seen it somewhere, but this is the Hoonicorn. I did the second season of Hoonicorn vs. the World. It was the first time I had driven any car to this extent, to this much horsepower. I was 14 years old. I do not know who came up with that decision, but right now, thinking back on it, I don't know who would let a 14-year-old drive this car. 14 years old, 1,400 horsepower car. That sounds really good as a YouTube handle. Sure. But every time I would come back from doing a run, the methanol is so strong in the car that I'd just start bawling. And it wasn't anything emotional, but it was stinging my eyes so much. And that just is kind of how aggressive this car is. And it's just a monster. And again, one of a one. I'm hoping to get behind this car again. It makes the best donuts. The difference between driving the electric Audi and this Hoonicorn is this scares you so much more because you hear the engine and turbos. And it's so like raw and in your face, and you can't hear anything but it and in your helmet. And then the smells, so that's just what makes it so aggressive. And yes, they may be similar in horsepower in that sense, but this just makes you a lot more scared. In a good way, of course. This car, the RS200, I used to be taken on what we call daddy-daughter dates when I was very young. And my dad would take me to my birthday dinner in this car. And I never got to drive it before he sold it, which was very sad, but it was his baby and he had to take his shoes off to drive it because he was too tall. And I would always say, "Oh, Dad, I can just drive it for you. I'm perfect size." And he was like, "You can't drive yet." But very iconic. And you know, this car is still maybe #1. Maybe I'll find a way back in my hands one day. I was very young. Don't remember a lot of this, but I do remember just hanging out in the rallycross paddocks and running back and forth from the truck to the track. And somehow this car always came back with some sort of damage. And I think that's just how rallycross is, but I would always try and steal some from the mechanics whenever they cut off the car and try to take it home, and it wouldn't fit my suitcase. But I watched a lot of rallycross races, and Andreas and my dad, it was like a really cool couple of years for me to be able to, you know, travel the world with World Rallycross. And I would say maybe that was the best type of racing to watch because you could see it all right there. But yeah, it's a long car, which is quite interesting when you think of rallycross, short course, everything like that. But there was a lot of ups and downs, I remember, of the years of this, but it was so iconic in the way that it was such a different way that my dad and the team approached World Rallycross. I don't think anybody had ever done in that way up until then. So lots of memories there. He definitely got frustrated when things didn't go his way, and I think I inherited that a bit. But he worked very hard at things, so it's hard when things don't go that way when you put all the work into it. And I think that was a very hard couple of years. You know, they had some success, but it was a, you know, very difficult time with the car and development, with bringing such a different style of chassis, and it's so long, and developing a whole new car for this series, unlike the competition where they've had this rallycross. They've developed it over years and years, and we're super competitive. So it was a feat to become that competitive so fast, but at the same time, I think it was hard for them to keep at that top level, and I think it just didn't last as long as my dad would have liked it. I think this might be my favorite car in this whole exhibit, just because it's pink. Maybe that's not only why, but I was given the opportunity to drive this car up Pikes Peak a couple years ago. And truly, it is the same way as the Hoonicorn. It's similar horsepower, but this car was built for time attack. It was built to stick to the ground. I mean, you can see the huge wing. It was built for something. That is just pure power, the Hoonicorn. And this is power, but it's able to put it down the right way. So a different feeling, especially on a road like Pikes Peak. So it's crazy that I went from watching my dad and them developing this car and going testing at Pikes Peak and then attempting to do the run, but just didn't work out, to driving it up the same hill. A very emotional day, but yeah, it's hard to explain what it is to drive some of these cars because they're just so unique and you can't even compare them to anything. And I think that's just what worked so well, is creating such unique cars that people just know and see and know the car itself. So a pretty awesome experience for me. I'd love to go back and do it again. I couldn't tell you every single spec of every single one of these cars, but I grew up seeing everything from behind the scenes and seeing the photos my dad used to get of them in development or going to the testing of each car and being like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. So I feel like I've seen it grow from, you know, an idea to reality. So I think it's just, yes, I definitely know them, maybe more physically in that way, and know the stories behind and like the true meaning of the cars. I think that my dad never wanted to be famous. I mean, he was always, or known in that way. He was always the one behind the camera facilitating. I mean, before anything, he was an entrepreneur. He was a businessman. He did shoes for a living and clothing, you know? He was always behind the camera, and I think what's so special is that he was able to bring his ideas and people liked them so much that he was able to create something so unique that people like really resonated towards, or it just stood out so much that not only the car community saw it, but so many other people. And he was able to bring in such a large community in that way. And for me, obviously, I just see him as my father. Like he's the one that, you know, took me to school every day and took me to soccer practice. So I feel like maybe I don't understand the extent of it, but as I've gotten older, it's a truly unique community that he created around stupid projects that became realities and somehow blew up on the internet. So it's a very cool legacy to be a part of, and to meet so many people that it's impacted. And I think on myself as well. I think, you know, it's hard to top whatever he's done in his life and all of these projects in this room. But I definitely have some sort of blueprint. For me, I grew up being in a rally paddock or a rallycross paddock. I grew up on Gymkhana sets, so I was sucked into it at a really, really early age, and I tried everything. I did gymnastics, basketball, soccer, like any sport I could get my hands on before I really went to, you know, karting or cars in general. But my dad never pushed me to do it. He kind of just opened doors and gave me opportunities when possible to, you know, dip my toes into the motorsport world. But I think for me, the real turning point was my dad got me a electric kids Mustang. It was very small. I think I was about maybe 6 years old. And I just did donuts all over the garage, and it was pretty fast, I would say. So I think I didn't absolutely know it right then, but I think that was the turning point in my brain that, you know, it's the adrenaline, it's the competition, it's the competitiveness in me that kind of turned it into a career. And for me, it's something that I love so much, and thankfully it has become my job, which is crazy to think about, because I just feel like I have so much fun doing it that there was no other path for me to go down. Well, I hope you learned a little bit more about my perspective, because I think it's a bit different, you know, from the inside. But people see all of these Gymkhana videos and, you know, reels at Instagram stories and posts on the internet. But I think seeing it in person is a big impact, especially for me. And I've seen them before, you know, to see these cars in person in this expedition, it really shows, you know, the path and the timeline and the things that he was able to create over the years, but also where he started. It's very impactful when you stand in this room and see that all of these cars are only a little part of what he did. I am Lia Block. We are here at the Petersen Automotive Museum, and this is the exhibition of the People's Champ, the legacy of my father, and it is open till October 5th, so don't forget to come and check it out, because you get to see these cars up close and very personal.